Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Ironcast. Established in 1886. That's a lie. There weren't video games back then. You can't fool me, Dreadbit Limited. And Ripstone Limited, the developer and publishers of Ironcast, which is a match 3 roguelite mecha steampunk RPG with permadeath. Makes sense. It actually compares itself to Puzzle Quest for a very good reason, because it uses some of the similar kind of mechanics, but it's not actually like that. It's got a little bit of FTL tossed in there. It's actually more like a game called Puzzlecraft, which is on iOS, which is actually one of the few iOS games that I really, really like in the way that its match 3 mechanics work. They're not the same as Puzzle Quest. So, quick look at the options menu, because there's not much to see. You got windowed mode, resolutions go up pretty much about as high as your monitor can support, and you have language options as well as music and sound. There's no key rebinding because there are no keys. This is entirely mouse-driven. So, it's a 2D mouse-driven game, doesn't really need graphic settings, and apparently will run on a potato. So, I think we're pretty good there. What you also have is global unlock progress. Now, I mentioned permadeath. The more experience you gain, the more your global level will increase. The more your global level increases, the more items and commanders and different kinds of mechs that you unlock to be able to play. It's a very standard thing now for roguelites, but it's also a very good reason to play multiple times. It's part of the meta progression that's involved in these games, which a lot of people seem to like, and I don't mind it either, because every time you die, you're getting something out of it, which means that you don't feel like your entire run was a waste. So, to new game. Let us choose. You begin with one pilot, Heiress Powell, that has an energy fan. Look how damn cool that is. She is quite the gentlewoman, and she has a signature ability. And you can also switch between commanders. You can unlock, by the looks of it, 4 commanders. I'm not sure if there's any more than that available. But these guys all have signature abilities. So it really depends on what you really want to do. If you want to be a very defensive player, you probably want to pick Heiress, because she has this ability where if you match 6 or more energy nodes, it reduces the energy costs of activating your shields or your drives by 1. So this is all good. It also boosts the damage of energy-based weapons. So we're going to pick her. And we're going to run with an energy mech here. We have the Arundel. We also have the Warwick here, which is... It's a bit of a fat mech, that one. And it's got a lot of ammo capacity, but base ammo capacity, actually. Quite a tough mech as well. Has fairly high hit points. Also has dense shields by default, so it's very much a tanky kind of mech. We're going to go with the Arundel. Now, this starts with energy weapons by default, and has a signature ability of its own. It has the next energy weapon to be fired will ignore 75% of the enemy's shield strength, and it also has a high energy starting storage amount, which means that you will be able to use a lot of defenses, and they also move quite fast too. So, I'm going to pick the Arundel. There we go. Alright, ladies and gents, so welcome to Ironcast. You are thrown into your workshop. This is the place you'll go back to every mission. This is the place where you'll add augmentations, abilities, and upgrade items and weapons. Every time you kill something, you usually get a blueprint, and it's generally like a random drop. There are also rare blueprints available that drop every now and again, and you can spend scrap to build those weapons and equip them onto your mech. You can equip 2 weapons simultaneously. You can also equip a drive system and defenses, which can either be armor or shields, which both kind of do different things. The shields will deflect a certain amount of damage, and then the rest of it goes through. Armor is a percentage reduction. So they're both good in their own ways against different kinds of loadouts. And the drive is something which allows you to move faster, which increases your evasion. So if you remember how FTL works with its evasion, this is very, very similar. So, select mission. Let's jump in and let's go and fight. So you have a boss fight that's going to arrive in 10 days. You have to do 10 missions before, well, 9 days. You do 9 missions, and then you fight the boss. The better you do on the missions, the more war assets you get. The more war assets you get, the less HP the boss has. This is not the only boss, by the way. So there is actually a lot more content beyond that. Each mission has a different set of characteristics. In this case, in the immediate aftermath of France's devastating attack, you must push back against an enemy, advance before it's allowed to gain momentum. Destroy the enemy Ironcast invader at this location within the turn limit. If the turn limit is reached, the enemy will receive reinforcements. So we could do that. There's also this one, which involves defending a position. A lot of these are quite similar, but the further down the tree you go, the longer you stick around, the more variety you generally get in the mission. So we're going to go with this one. They all kind of reward about the same amount, so we're just going to go fight this. So here we go. We're going with our default mech, and the main meat of the game is this match 3 combat between... It's a mech either versus another mech or versus a steam tank, which is quite literally a train with guns on it that drives around. We're up against this guy right here, which is... It's like a walking barbecue. All right. So, this is the match 3 system. It looks very familiar. You match different glyphs together, right? You match a minimum of 3. But here's what it does. You get to match 3 sets of nodes together, and those nodes will generate resources. There are 4 resources: ammo, energy, coolant, and repair. Repair is used to repair damaged systems, of which there are, as you can see, 4. All of these have hit points. They can be damaged and destroyed. If they are destroyed, they go offline. It's that simple. Ammo will load your ammunition, which means that you can fire, and each weapon takes a certain amount of ammo to fire. You can fire as many times as your ammo will allow, as long as you have the coolant for it. Every time you do something, your coolant's going to go down. If it reaches 0, you start to take system damage, so you need to keep your coolant up by collecting coolant nodes. Energy is used to power drives and defenses. You can power either of them with them. And depending on what mech you go for and what kind of enemy you're against, depends maybe on what kind of defense you want to dedicate power to. So let's gather some power. Alright, so the way you do it is this kind of connection. It's not like Puzzle Quest where you have to swap gems. You can literally connect as many things together via diagonals as possible. So we're going to collect all this energy, which is going to charge us up here. And that's going to allow us to begin. As you can see, the pilot, as we mentioned earlier, has Lady of Power, meaning that I get a nice little energy reduction on my first thing here. So I'm going to increase my speed, and we're going to raise... Well, let's have a look at what weapons it's got first. It's got a pulse repeater and a light cannon. We definitely want shields up against that. So we're going to raise our shields, and we can raise them even further, perhaps. Let's collect some ammunition, so we can fire our guns. We can't fire them till next turn. I'm actually going to grab these 2 overload nodes as well. These are going to allow me to activate some super powerful abilities. And we have a bit more energy. We could do that. Yeah, let's go with more energy, because then we can use one of those overload nodes to massively boost our shield capacity up to 30. There we go. So we're well protected. And that's the first turn. You don't get to fire weapons in the first turn. So now the enemy plays. Now the enemy doesn't play on the same grid as you. It's all hidden. So this makes the turns move a lot faster. But it does put you in the situation where you wonder, well, is the AI cheating or not? But then again, I think if you remember playing Puzzle Quest, the AI was a bit dodgy in that as well. It's like, does the AI know what nodes are coming down, what gems are coming down, and I don't? Alright, so he's got no shields up right now, and he's got 8% evasion, which means the best weapon I can hit him with is a pulse repeater, which is a energy machine gun. It's going to do a lot of damage, and we're going to unleash it on him right now. And we even get an overdrive effect as well, so it's huge damage. Now, what I've done is I've knocked out his pulse repeater. I can target specific subsystems if I wish here. So we might be able to kill this guy this turn if we can get enough ammunition to do it. So let's gather some more ammo. In fact, let's wait. Let's fire weapons. You can fire the weapons as many times as you have energy for. So we've taken him down. There we go. He's actually immediately dead. And we took no damage, which is fantastic, because damage costs money to repair. And we don't want that. There we go. That is 1 dead Ironcast. And congratulations. We have successfully done that, and our 10th rate Margaret Thatcher over there is going to be very pleased with our progress. Assuming we're not breaking the miners' unions. I get it. Oh, I got an achievement for that as well, because I didn't take any damage. So there we go. I gain experience. That's a level up. The level up will allow you to unlock one of 3 kind of randomly generated augmentations. So I can augment my shields. The chance of your shields going into overdrive is increased by 5%. I could absorb damage and reflect. That's pretty good. Or I can put a rapid fire on. I like the shield augmentation. We're going to grab that. There we go. And I've unlocked the parts for Hardened Drive Mark II and Dense Shields Mark II. Both of these are pretty good, actually. The Hardened Drive is probably pretty nice. It's harder to blow up. It's got a lot more HP. But Dense Shields are also very, very good. So might want to consider which one we want to go for here. Do we want to go for evasion? Do we want to go for shields? Well, it doesn't really matter right now because we don't have enough scrap to buy either of them. So if we head to the workshop, we'll see these are where the items are now, and they cost 750 to build each, and I can't really afford anything. So it's fine. We didn't take any damage last turn, so we just go into another fight. It's really as simple as that. And that's the game in a nutshell. That's what you are going to be doing. All right, we're going to have to fight either a tank or a mech here, one way or the other. So, what does the enjoyment of the game come down to? Well, do you enjoy match 3 mechanics in a steampunk mech-driven world, is the question. And that's a very simple question. Too simple, in fact, because this is not the same as other match 3 games. Match 3 games more often than not have what I call the cascade effect, a chain reaction. What happens is you'll match up a bunch of gems, and then a bunch of gems are going to fall from the top, and then they'll kind of cascade. There'll be another match, then another match, and another match. And people really enjoy that because I think it's a very satisfying thing to watch. It's that little dopamine release. It's like, hey, that was really cool. Things flash all over the screen. It says, yeah, this is amazing. But there's not a lot of strategy in that. There's some, because you can see some of the drops coming, but you don't know what gems are going to come from the top. So really, you can only see like 1 or 2 moves ahead, really, on the board. You can see, okay, this is now going to fall into that's going to activate that, but after that, it becomes kind of random, and the whole thing's just a bit ridiculous. Now, some people really enjoy that. This, in my opinion, is a more strategic form of that, because that doesn't happen. So you have more direct control over things. You don't have this giant cascade of nonsense, but you are still dealing with some random generation, because it depends what nodes drop from the top as to how effective you're going to be next turn. But this is also about resource conservation and saying, well, do I really need to match 12 here if I can only have 6 capacity? Maybe I should just match 6 and leave them for the next turn. Maybe I should fire now, then fire again, and then I'll use this to gather the maximum amount. So there's a bit of strategizing involved. Let's engage the steam tank, shall we? There we go. We're going to fight the steam tank. We're going to use rapid fire weaponry to try and blow this thing up. It's, as I said, it's literally a train with guns on it. Actually has some nasty guns, an energy lance, Mach 1, and a light cannon. So the energy lance is very good at penetrating shields. The light cannon is very good at penetrating armor. So we're going to have to think a bit carefully about how we do our defense here. So we can collect a bunch of energy here. We can collect 8 at once, which is fantastic. That's going to almost get us to maximum. I'm thinking a bit of both. We want shields up so that he doesn't use the cannon, but we also want to be evading as much as possible. And I think we want to evade with a boost here as well. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to grab all of these, but then I'm going to grab what's called a link node, and I can actually now link 2 colors together. So I can go all the way around here, then I can grab that. Then I could grab all of this if I wanted. That would get me a ton of experience, but it's also a waste of ammo because I only have 6 ammo capacity. So let's just grab that. There we go, and that gets me a node. And now I'm going to use that to increase my walking speed for 13% evasion. There we go, and I'm going to do that again. And then I can buff my shields a bit, or I could go to maximum walking speed. I think we'll buff the shields. There we go. So my shields are now up to 20. And we have all the ammunition we could possibly desire, but we have 1 more turn left, so what do we want to do with it? We could grab some repair, certainly, or we could grab some coolant. I'm going to grab some coolant. There we go. Just want to make sure I don't overheat. Alright, so we're ready to fire next turn. So we're going to take some damage probably from this energy weapon. He's actually using the cannon, which is a terrible idea, and I'm not sure why he would do that. Maybe he just thought the evasion was too bad. As you can see, that goes through the shields quite effectively. The cannon doesn't. Alright, cool. We've got a bunch of ammo. Let's decide what to target. So his most dangerous weapon is his energy lance. So we're going to target it. And we're going to fire the pulse repeater at it and see how that works out. Let's see how much damage we can do. So he has armor, which is going to reduce some of this damage coming in, but this is still a fairly effective weapon to use. There we go. And it's gonna hit quite a few times. So his weapon is almost gone. Now, if we gather up a bunch of other stuff, we could get ourselves some more ammo. No point in collecting really any more than that, but I think what we're going to do is collect from here. So we can get the overcharge node, and then we can pepper him with some fire. There we go. Alright, open up. And that was overdriven, and that did a bunch of extra damage, and now his main weapon is offline, so he's going to have to gather repairs. And that's a very important concept, because even though you can't see what's going on his board, he's still having to collect repair nodes, and repair nodes could be ammo, they could be shields. It's about resource management, because you have to manage the amount of turns that you've got and manage the nodes that you collect. It's like, yeah, there might be a really tempting thing on the board where it's like, hey, you can grab 10 of these. Yeah, but I only need 3. You know? And maybe I actually need coolant quite soon, because I'm going to be firing a lot. Maybe I need that instead. So there's a bunch of things you got to consider there. So it's a bit more strategic than I think it appears on first glance, frankly. And that's good, because otherwise, you know, I think that people would get a little bit bored of it. And I think the steampunk vibe in particular is going to appeal to more core gamers. So ideally, you want to make sure the skill ceiling's pretty high and that they're actually getting a rewarding experience from it. And I'm happy to say that so far I have found a rewarding experience from it. And if I want to, let's use that evil word that games critics are not allowed to use. It's fun. Fun is a neurological trick. Yes, so are your feelings. But regardless of that, why is it fun? Well, I find it enjoyable because, 1, I love the theme. Absolutely love it. I mean, I'm British, of course, so of course I'm going to love the theme. You know, what else would I possibly do there? Let's try and knock his armor out while we're here. The British being invaded by the Mecha French in a steampunk alternate Victorian universe. Absolutely. Great theme. Absolutely fantastic. Nice mech design. I love the design of the aesthetic in general, actually, for this game. It's really, really nice. Nice use of fonts, gears everywhere. Only thing I don't really like is the UI. This doesn't need to override this. Like, these should not cover the mechs. There's no reason for that. These could have been much more horizontal. Like, this could be moved here, and then you could make this a horizontal window that appears here, which wouldn't cover anything. You could do the same thing with this. This could be a horizontal window coming along there. This could run along the bottom. These 4 could be lined up one after another. It would be very, very easy. So this is a minor UI design element that I feel could be improved. But outside of that, it's a nice looking game. It's got good art, good use of fonts. And more to the point, the match 3 system to me is extremely compelling because it's more about resource conservation and management rather than just randomly getting a bunch of really cool crits. And it's like, hey, everything's falling down and dropping, everything's wonderful. Yeah, that's nice, and I'm sure people like watching that, but it's not that strategic ultimately. There's not a lot of control you generally have over it. And that's a bit of a problem. I also am a fan of the meta progression and the loot drops, which are kind of randomly generated. So you'll often have to adapt your mech in a certain way, and you'll end up building a strategy over time, very much like FTL. You know, you'll gather the right kind of weapons and shields to form a particular strategy, and that's what your run's going to be based on. And that's also kind of random, of course, because you're going to be grabbing all of this. Cool. Coolant leech, scramble enemy repair. That might be really useful. And kinetic conversion. Okay. I'm going to grab that. I've never seen that before, so that could be really handy. That could be very useful against the boss, actually, who uses repair a lot. Spoilers. Energy Lance Mach 2 and Light Cannon Mach 2 are now available to build. We should probably build the Energy Lance Mach 2, considering we just got it. Although I'm really considering those dense shields. I've actually never had a dense shield drop before, so I'm pretty tempted to use it. Obviously, I've got a lot of maneuverability with this particular mech, but the shield is, of course, very, very valuable as well. So I think I'm going to build the shield. We'll stick with the weapons we've got for the time being. They should do the trick. And these shields, I can now put reflective shielding on, because, again, I just got an augmentation for that, so I made that decision based on that. And there we go. Now we have a little bit of a better mech, so we can jump in and do yet another mission. And some of the missions vary up. They've got this one right here, I think. You've got to collect supplies, which are random nodes that come up as crates. And you can just attach them to pretty much any chain, but it changes things around just a little bit. If I have one complaint, it's that at least in the early game, maybe past the first boss, this changes. There's not a gigantic variety of missions. I mean, you're always going to be fighting mechs one way or the other, but there are some where you have to survive a number of turns. There's one where, in order to succeed, you've got to not damage the armor of the thing, because you want to salvage it, you want to steal it, because it's a special steam tank or whatever. So, it's not like it lacks variety, it's just I haven't seen a huge amount of it yet. But that really hasn't bothered me all that much, because I've found the match 3 battling to be very compelling in and of itself. Alright, let's raise our dense shield, shall we? These are very tough, very tough. So we've got a huge boost up on that one. Got them right up to very high levels. So what weapons is he packing? He's packing a pulse repeater and a light cannon. He's screwed. He can't even hurt me. My defenses are so high, he cannot even hurt me right now. So that is phenomenal. Now, we do want to gather the rest of this energy. I'm going to actually just pump it into shields and walking speed, just because I want to try and get rid of it, because we need this off the board. There's so much of it. There we go, because we're still looking for ammunition, and it turns out we're actually very much lacking in it, which is a little bit terrible. But hey, there we go. Grab some ammo nonetheless. And our shields are just phenomenally good, and there's no chance he will actually do any damage. I'm only pumping them up because every round you lose 1 level of them, so you need to keep powering them. So I just want them up as high as I can get them, so I don't have to do that next turn. Alright, let's see what he comes up with, which is going to be nothing, because I'm pretty sure he can't hurt me. So he's probably going to just max out his evasion, which is exactly what he's doing. Alright, we can fire on him, or we could just try and murder him at this point. We're still looking for crates of tea, by the way, so this is actually not as important as it appears. It doesn't even matter what we find. I think we just knock out his drives so we can't evade. There we go. And his shields are at 0, so we'll use the pulse repeater to do it. There we go. Good damage. So if you are someone that likes match 3, and you like the theme, then I have very, very little... I have very few qualms recommending Ironcast to you, because it's very, very enjoyable for what it is. As I said, it's very strategic in terms of the match 3 gameplay. It's about as strategic as match 3 gameplay really gets, you know? And I found that to be particularly compelling, personally. But I'm someone that likes match 3 anyway, and it'd be looking for a match 3 that happens to have the right amount of complexity. A lot of match 3 stuff on iOS is very simple, and I, as a core gamer, am looking for something that's a bit more complicated, obviously, you know, as you might imagine. That would make perfect sense. So if you're that kind of guy, then yeah, Ironcast is a bunch of fun. I think the only thing it's lacking is multiplayer. What I'd absolutely love to see is a mode which allowed you to customize mechs. Like, say you get like 1,000 points to customize a mech, and then you go into a match 3 battle with somebody. Obviously, it would take a little bit more time, and it's just impractical for the developer, I suppose, to actually make that right now. But in the future DLC, I'd absolutely love to see a competitive multiplayer mode for this game. It's very, very fun on its own in single player, absolutely. My shields need to be a little higher than that, it seems. I was actually able to take some damage from that. Not too much, but enough to bother me. So we're going to grab a little bit extra energy here. Might actually just grab some scrap here. There's lots of it. And then we can get that out of the way, and then that means we can get a better connection here. Bring our shields up a little bit higher. There we go. Running out of coolant. Running out of just ammo in general. I actually don't have a lot to shoot at him, which is a bit disappointing. There we go. I want to maybe wreck his repair ability, but I haven't taken his drives offline yet, so let's not bother with that. But yeah, you've seen what the game has to offer. There's a big boss fight at the after you've done 10 missions. There are more than one boss. There is more than one boss in the game. And every time you die, you unlock a bunch of new abilities, which means that it increases the variety, but also, as a result, increases the difficulty every time you play, because you don't have such a predictable set of weapons and abilities. It's got things like rare drops. The progression is, in my opinion, very compelling. And the combat is suitably strategic for a Match 3 game. Surprisingly strategic, perhaps, for a Match 3 game. There you go. It's called Ironcast, ladies and gentlemen, and it is available right now. If you buy it in the first few days, there's a 30% discount, which takes the price down to about $10 or your regional equivalent. That, frankly, in my opinion anyway, is kind of a bargain. As I said, I've enjoyed the game immensely up to this point, but I am someone that enjoys Match 3. I think based on the gameplay, you should be able to make your decision. There's very little wrong with it, frankly, outside of just some UI issues here and there. Very little wrong with it indeed. It's a fairly simple concept, well executed, with a very nice theme over the top, which is, frankly, pretty much all I need from a game, whether it be a board game or a video game. Does it have a good theme? Does it have great mechanics? Is it compelling? Does it have great replayability? Is it good value? The answer to all of those questions appears to be yes. Ironcast, ladies and gentlemen. It's available on Steam, as I said, with 30% off during the launch sale. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Kaboom.